Perhaps today you're feeling that painful silence, that immense void left by a woman who had promised you a future together. You may have left because there was nothing left to save, or because you were utterly exhausted from always being the one carrying the relationship on your shoulders. But let me tell you something that few people dare to reveal. The day you disappeared from her life, it wasn't the end for her. It was the beginning, the true start of the impact, the abyssal void, the emotional shock she would never have felt as long as you remained available. Because you didn't leave overnight without reason. It was her who pushed you to walk out that door. She treated you as if you were replaceable, as if you'd be there forever, as if your love was an infinite resource she could draw from without ever paying the price. And you, in your desperate efforts to save what was already broken, gave even more, insisted further, pulled on the rope until the moment you finally chose to protect yourself. That day, my brother, was precisely the one she had never imagined. And listen carefully, she didn't feel your absence right away. Not that day, not that week. At first, she convinced herself she could carry on without you, that your love would come back whenever she wanted it. She was so accustomed to your constant presence that she mistook your loyalty for weakness. But when you truly disappear, when you stop writing, searching, asking, begging, something triggers inside her. Something she has absolutely no control over. The emotional void she begins to feel. This void doesn't emerge simply because she misses you physically. It emerges because your energy is no longer there to feed her ego. You're no longer there to provide that constant validation. You're no longer there to soothe her fear of ending up alone. You're no longer there to boost her confidence every time she doubted herself. And that silence, that chasm, that space you've left empty weighs heavier and heavier, because the reality is that you weren't just any man in her life. You were the one who gave her emotional stability without her even truly realizing it. You can't see what she's going through now, but I assure you one thing. Her mind keeps bringing you back to her, far more than you suspect, because when you were available, she didn't value you. But now that you're gone, her world has lost that pillar that was always there, unconditionally. Now her inner security is cracking. Now her apparent coldness is crumbling. Now she's wondering why you, the man who always showed up before, no longer appear. And then the inevitable happens. She starts revisiting you in silence, in her thoughts, in her memories, in her lonely nights. She replays on loop what you said, what you did, what you endured, what you gave. And she begins to see herself without the foundation your presence had built for her. And that merciless mirror hurts her more than any silence from you. Welcome to relationship psychology. Her coldness was, in reality, just comfort. For a long time, you believed she was strong. You thought her coldness represented maturity, that her distance was a form of clarity, that her displayed confidence meant she no longer felt anything for you. But here's the truth no one had ever revealed to you. Her coldness was never a sign of power. It was simply comfort. She was so certain of keeping you emotionally captive that she never needed to make the slightest effort. Her distance was only possible because of your presence. When you were there, she could afford to be icy. When you wrote, she could take all the time she wanted to reply. When you insisted, she could ignore. When you sought her out, she could vanish. Not because she was stronger than you, but because you were too solid, too committed, too present. The security she projected didn't come from high self-esteem. It came directly from you. You supported her while she played at being unshakable, and that's exactly when her emotional collapse begins. When you're no longer there, her coldness becomes useless, because coldness only works when someone persists. Distance only hurts when someone tries to bridge it. But when you truly disappear, when you stop talking, searching, when you close the door calmly, her supposed power runs out of fuel. She no longer has anyone to ignore, anyone to test, anyone to dominate. What she saw as control was actually your love. It was your unconditional presence. It was your emotional availability, and losing that begins to crack her facade. You gave too much to someone who gave so little. You didn't lose this woman because you weren't enough. You lost her because you offered so much to someone who barely gave you crumbs. And it hurts to admit, but this truth will set you free. You, love, loyalty, time, attention. Her, crumbs disguised as affection. And you, with your sincere heart, mistook her crumbs for progress, her silences for deep thoughts, her coldness for emotional complexity. It wasn't complexity. It was pure disinterest. A disinterest you tried to compensate for by giving even more. She had conditioned you to receive so little that, at some point, you believed that was the normal price of love. You adapted to that emotional imbalance. You accepted being there for her even when she wasn't there for you. You tolerated the voids, endured the distances, absorbed the silences, all to avoid losing her. But what you didn't see was that you were losing yourself in the process. And the most painful part is that she knew it. Not always consciously, but she felt it. She knew you'd stay even if she faltered. She knew that no matter how long she took to reply, you'd still be available. She knew that despite her repeated coldness, you'd come back. You taught her, unintentionally, that your presence had no limits. You showed her that your love was guaranteed, and guaranteed love is rarely appreciated at its true worth. But here's the decisive turning point that changes everything. When you choose to leave, she loses that immense emotional privilege. She loses the man who was always there. She loses the permanent validation. She loses the refuge she had when everything went wrong. She loses that emotional stability she found nowhere else. And this loss confronts her violently. Because even if she didn't admit it, you gave her a stability no other man had provided. You protected her from her own insecurities, even when she didn't notice. Your mistake was never loving. Your mistake was loving without boundaries someone who wasn't ready to receive so much. But that mistake is now becoming your greatest strength. The breaking point becomes your awakening. There comes a moment in every man's life when the pain becomes less sharp, when disappointment no longer paralyzes, when emotional exhaustion turns into total clarity. That moment arrives when you, after giving everything, look at the relationship from the outside and realize you can no longer carry alone what she abandoned long ago. That's the breaking point, the precious instant when you no longer break, you awaken. And in that awakening happens what she never anticipated. You stop chasing. You stop sending the first message. You stop demanding explanations. You stop trying to return where there was no longer room for you. Something inside you, calm but powerful, declares, enough. And when a man says enough from his deep dignity, there's no going back. She may not have seen it coming, but this change marks the start of her own emotional fall. Because you didn't leave with screams, accusations, or drama. You left in silence. You left calmly. You left with the kind of dignity only men who no longer need to prove anything possess. That kind of departure is the one that hits her deepest, because she expected you to keep begging, insisting, trying to save what she had already let die. But you didn't. For the first time, she sees that you have limits, and that completely destabilizes her. When you decide to stop chasing, you discover a truth you refuse to accept. She wasn't moving toward you. You were pushing alone. This realization hurts, yes, but it also frees you. It gives you new, unexpected strength. It brings you back to yourself. And paradoxically, this act of letting go is precisely what starts to catch up with her. Because a woman never fears the man who stays. She fears the man who finally grows tired. The impact of your absence on her. When you truly leave, not just in words, but in actions, something strange starts happening inside her. At first, she pretends nothing has changed. She tries to continue her life normally. She attempts to maintain the same detached attitude she had with you, but reality always catches up, and it hits harder than she expected. Because one ordinary day, without warning, her mind slams into the truth. You're no longer there. That moment is brutal for her. It's like an emotional freefall she can't protect herself from. Because as long as you were present, she had the security that everything was under control. She could ignore you, pull away, treat you with indifference, and you kept supporting what remained of the relationship. But now that you're gone, now that your energy has withdrawn, now that your attention no longer flows toward her, she starts feeling the absence in a way she never imagined. Absence isn't just silence. Absence is profound impact. Absence is the reflection of everything you did that no one else does now. No one listens to her like you. No one calms her like you. No one validates her like you. No one supports her emotionally like you. And even if she surrounds herself with people, even if she talks to others, even if she tries to distract herself, there's something she can no longer ignore. None of them are you. And that's where your power grows the most. She tries to provoke you, test you, send subtle signals, stories, posts, disguised messages, not necessarily to come back, but to check if you're still there. She wants to know if your heart remains open, if your attention is still available, if she can still rely on you emotionally. But when you no longer react as before, when your silence is real and solid, when she sees you've lost the habit of chasing, she starts to worry seriously, because she didn't expect you to change. She didn't expect you to strengthen. She didn't expect you to move forward without her. And when she sees your new posture, calm, distant, solid, she realizes the man she knew a few months ago no longer exists. The man who was there unconditionally has become a man who chose himself, and that confronts her deeply. The comparison with other men destroys her. There's a phase every ex goes through when you truly disappear. A phase she never admits, never says out loud, that she usually lives in silence. Comparison. She starts comparing what she gets now with what she had with you. She compares the superficial attention from others with the deep attention you gave her. She compares the empty words people say to her with the sincerity you spoke with. She compares how others make her feel with how you made her feel. And this comparison never favors the outside world, because out there, she can find looks, messages, easy compliments, men who desire her. But she doesn't find your unique way of loving. She doesn't find your listening ability, your support, your patience, your calm, your presence, even on her darkest days. What you offered wasn't ordinary attention. It was authentic presence. And a real man's presence isn't easily replaced. She thought the world was full of men better than you. By leaving you, she believed she'd find something superior, that your emotional intensity would be easy to replace, that your consistency could be found everywhere. But now that you're gone, now that she's trying to fill that void with others, she discovers a painful truth. Others don't look at her like you did. They don't understand her like you did. They don't talk to her like you did. And that's when her silent regret begins. It's not regret born from mere nostalgia, but from the brutal contrast between what she always received from you and what she gets from no one else. Every man who enters her life now reminds her, in one way or another, that she lost someone exceptional. And that blow doesn't fade with likes, outings, or external validation. It stays inside. A thought starts to take root in her, dangerous for her, powerful for you. I think I made a mistake. She doesn't say it out loud. She doesn't admit it. She doesn't write it to you. But she feels it deeply. She feels it when comparing conversations. She feels it when trying to connect with someone else and failing. She feels it when coming home without your message. She feels it remembering all those times you were there and no one is now. Regret, fear, and idealization. A decisive moment arrives, a silent but devastating point for her, where the mind can no longer escape, where distractions stop working, where the ego no longer protects her. This moment comes when, after comparing everything, she starts idealizing what she lost. That's when true regret is born. And it's not a light regret. It's one that takes root, weighs heavy, gnaws from within. Because memory has a power she can't control. Memory selects, highlights what you did that seemed ordinary when she had you, but now becomes enormous in your absence. She remembers your tone of voice, your gestures, your way of kissing her, your infinite patience, your ability to understand even when she was lost. She remembers what you brought without asking anything in return, and those memories haunt her. And here's what's most powerful for you. She doesn't remember the relationship as it really was. She remembers it better. That's the effect of your absence. Your silence forces her to fill the gaps with idealization. Her mind rebuilds you as the most stable, noble, present man she's ever had. It's not that you've changed in her memory. It's that she finally values it. She sees it now, feels it now. The regret she feels isn't about losing someone. It's about losing the most precious man she's ever had. The man who gave her emotional stability others can't match. The man who cared for her even when she mistook it for weakness. That man you were, she won't find him twice. And when that idea settles, guilt emerges. First as a whisper, then as doubt. And finally as certainty. She mistreated you, gave you less than you deserved, and lost you because of her lack of reciprocity. Conclusion: your rebirth and your victory. And this ending isn't a goodbye, it's a rebirth. It's the moment you look back at everything you've lived, everything you've given, everything you've endured, and you understand something that transforms your life forever. You didn't lose a woman. She lost the man who loved her most, sincerely. And that, even if she doesn't say it, doesn't write it, even if she stays silent, she feels it. She feels it every day that passes without you. She feels it every time she tries to replace what you gave her and fails. She feels it every time her ego crumbles because you don't come back. When you chose to walk away, you didn't do it out of pride. You did it out of dignity. You did it because you recognized the moment you were no longer valued. You did it because you understood that inner peace isn't negotiated, that self-love isn't begged for, that your energy is sacred. And now, from this new version of yourself, you're a stronger, more aware, more solid man. She may have thought she'd break you. Without knowing it, she forged you. She, on the other hand, now lives with that doubt that never leaves. With that burning question, with that tormenting possibility, what if he never comes back? That question keeps her awake. That question follows her everywhere. That question accompanies her even when she smiles, even when she distracts herself, even when she pretends she's fine. Because the mind doesn't lie. When your absence weighs more than your presence, the wound doesn't heal. You left in silence, but you left an echo in her life she can't turn off. And the strongest part of all this is that you didn't have to do anything to get here. You didn't have to humiliate yourself, beg, prove anything. You left, you kept silent, you chose your peace. And that silence was your greatest proof of power. Because a man who stays silent isn't weak. He's a man who knows his worth. And when a man knows his worth, he becomes irreplaceable. Could she come back? Yes, she might appear with a message, a simple, "How are you?" "I thought of you." She might return repentant, insecure, driven by fear. But what matters now isn't whether she comes back. What matters is who you've become when she does. Because if she returns, she'll return to a man who no longer depends on her. A man who discovered his true value by walking away. A man who learned that his love isn't offered where it's not appreciated. And if she doesn't return, you lose nothing either. Because the universe has then removed someone who wasn't ready for a man like you. And that kind of loss is never real. They're liberations, they're doors closing so you can walk towards something greater, healthier, more reciprocal. Because a man who chooses himself never loses. He grows, evolves, rises, so hold your head high. She may have played with your emotions, but you showed her what it means to be loved. She may have underestimated you, but you showed her what it means to be loved by a real man. She may have lost you, but you found yourself. And that makes you the true winner of this story. Because in the end, all she lost is a man she'll never find again. And what you've gained is everything you've always deserved. If this video resonated with you, give it a like, subscribe, and hit the bell. And leave me one word in the comments: firmness. Because it's your firmness that makes the difference between losing yourself and losing her forever.